Jimmy Kimmel began his monologue without raising his voice. Donald Trump had publicly called for ABC and Disney to fire him over a joke involving Melania Trump. Kimmel understood that the controversy had already moved beyond the boundaries of comedy. The president was no longer merely criticizing a comedian's material. He was openly urging a private media company to remove a television host because of something he had said.
Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow. You know, Melania's birthday is on Sunday. That's right. She's planning to celebrate at home the same way she always does, looking out a window and whispering, "What have I done?"
Late Show host Jimmy Kimmel back in the spotlight tonight for a joke he made last week. First Lady Melania Trump calling on ABC to fire Kimmel. She issued a statement on X saying he should not be allowed on the airwaves. The backlash surrounds a sketch where Kimmel was pretending to be the hired comedian at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Kimmel made jokes, including one about the First Lady's appearance.
A call to fire me from our First Lady, Melania Trump, saying I should be fired because of a joke I made, again, 5 nights ago. It was a pretend roast. I said, our First Lady Melania is here. Look at her, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow, which obviously was a joke about their age difference and the look of joy we see on her face every time they're together.
They give me only bad publicity for breasts. I mean, they're getting a license. I would think maybe their license should be taken away. It will be up to Brendan Carr.
We sent our man Yaya to a Samsung promotional event in New York where we learned that Donald Trump was a very big fan of mine.
Hi, Mr. Trump. How are you, sir? What are you doing here?
Well, I'm here to support Samsung and their 3D plasma television.
Do you want
But I'm also here to support Jimmy. I love Jimmy.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. Yeah. Nice to meet you. You want to be in my show?
Well, you know what? I happen to love Jimmy. Let's do it.
Okay.
Come on.
Well, no, it's...
Kimmel looked directly into the camera and responded in a measured tone. He explained that the joke concerned the age difference between Donald and Melania Trump. It was not, he said, a call for violence, and he rejected any suggestion that it had been intended that way. Then he acknowledged one point from Melania Trump's statement: hateful and violent rhetoric should be rejected. The audience applauded. That was when the response became more effective than an angry rebuttal. Kimmel did not attack Trump's intelligence. He did not demand that Trump be removed from office. He did not call for government action against anyone. Instead, he explained the joke, clarified what he meant, defended his intent, and brought the conversation back to the principle of free expression. Trump's response had been unmistakable. He wanted Kimmel fired by the network that employed him. And this was not the first time Trump had gone after the host, criticized his ratings, or celebrated the possibility of his show disappearing from television. Kimmel treated that history as part of the evidence. He reminded viewers that Trump had repeatedly portrayed him as irrelevant, while continuing to watch, quote, and amplify his monologues. Every presidential attack put Kimmel's name in front of millions of people who may never have seen the original joke. The contradiction practically wrote its own punchline. If Kimmel truly had no audience, why was the president spending so much time talking about him? If the joke was supposedly meaningless, why did it become important enough to trigger a presidential demand for his dismissal? And if Trump believed strongly in free expression, why should a television host's employment depend on whether the president approved of his material? Kimmel let those questions sit in the studio without forcing the audience toward an answer. For older viewers, the issue extended far beyond one comedian. Presidents have spent decades criticizing newspapers, journalists, actors, commentators, and entertainers. But criticizing a person is different from using the influence of the presidency to pressure the company that employs that person. A television host can be crude. A comedian can be partisan. A commentator can be completely wrong. Audiences can change the channel. Advertisers can pull their support. Networks can make their own business decisions. But the government should not become a television standards department. Kimmel's calm delivery made that distinction impossible to overlook. Trump's message had sounded like a demand for consequences. Kimmel's answer sounded like an explanation. He then pointed to the unusual cycle that had developed between them. Trump attacked Kimmel's ratings. Kimmel responded to the attack. That response drew more attention. Trump reacted again, giving Kimmel material for another monologue. The attempted punishment became publicity. Kimmel smiled at the irony, but he did not suggest that the situation was harmless. Comedy needs room to challenge and offend powerful people. That freedom does not mean comedians are immune from criticism. It means the public should not live under a system where political leaders determine which jokes are allowed to remain on television. Trump's supporters had every right to dislike Kimmel. Kimmel's audience had every right to dislike Trump. Both reactions were part of a free society. What was incompatible with that principle was the idea that presidential anger should determine whether a private media company keeps a comedian employed. Kimmel ended the monologue without trying to match Trump's volume. He said he would continue hosting his program, continue discussing the president, and continue defending the distinction between an offensive joke and genuinely violent language. The studio stood and applauded. No dramatic revelation was required. Trump had delivered the attack and demanded consequences. Kimmel had offered an explanation and refused to be intimidated. The contrast said everything. One man had used the power and visibility of the presidency to call for a comedian's firing. The other had used a television desk to explain why criticism of the president must remain possible. Kimmel's response did not resonate because it was louder. It resonated because it was controlled. And once the applause finally faded, the attack itself seemed smaller than the calm response it had unintentionally created.